Horsehair belong on the horse's ass. That's where it belongs. Don't belong on your head. I would enact legislation that you can't have braids if you work in a hospital. You're standing there trying to give the patient an IV and your hair's dropping in their mouth. They can't breathe, their eyes are open, they're chewing on your hair. I don't know what happened to them. You can't have braids and false hair, horsehair in the hospital. Horsehair don't belong in the hospital. Horsehair don't belong in the restaurants. Horsehair don't belong in the schools. Horsehair don't belong in the, horsehair belong on the horse's ass. That's where it belongs. Don't belong on your head.
If you ever want to identify when it's time for a pastor to retire, that sermon right there, it's time for that pastor to retire. But one of the things that it demonstrates to me is how religious people and religious teachings have always been based on whatever the generation that the person grew up in. You look at this gentleman, he's probably a boomer. So he grew up in a time frame where braids wasn't as big of a thing during his generation. You can look at the women behind him and see that they are utterly flabbergasted by his speech, but they look of the same generation, so they let it slide. You see these young girls walk around with their braids, and you know, these young girls, they're in the hospital with their braids, they in the restaurant with their braids, and it belongs on a horse's ass. These women wearing extensions and not wearing their natural hair. I wonder what he would have said if he would have been a pastor during the Victorian age. Because during the Victorian age in America and in Europe, or in the East Coast of America and in Europe, men wore wigs at times. Especially a lot of men, especially those in powerful positions, they wore wigs. It was the man who wore wigs more so than anybody else. So I wonder how he would have preached that sermon back then. Or if he was living during a time frame in Africa when it was men who wore earrings in places like East Africa and Ethiopia, Nigeria. I mean, not Nigeria, but Ethiopia. Well, Nigeria, yes, there was a time frame where men wore earrings. But there are different countries, different time frames where men wore earrings, and there was signs of importance, wealth, knowledge, and that you wore earrings. But I guarantee he's probably given a sermon about men wearing earrings and how they're looking like girls. Did you know that makeup was first originally created for men and not women? I would imagine that he doesn't know that. And if he saw a young man wearing makeup, he would probably say that he's doing something that is against the Bible. You see, that's the problem with religious teachings. Religious teachings can be conformed to whatever time frame that somebody's in order to make that person think they have authority over the rest of the people based on whatever cultural norms that you currently live in or that you grew up with and that you're okay with. See, his cultural norm is that he's teaching the Bible, a religion that was forced upon his ancestors, beaten into his great grandmothers and great grandfathers, that was forced on him from his childhood all the way up into his adult life. And he honestly believed that he is teaching somebody something and doing right by the people. You, sir, are doing more damage than you can ever imagine. And it is probably in your best interest. Just retire, call it a day. Because when you get up there and that's what your sermon's about, and you truly are showing that you ain't got nothing to say. So y'all have a great day. And always remember, that's a lot of rhyming. Y'all have a great day. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.